Sarah Martinez had always been different from other soldiers in her unit. While her male colleagues bragged about their shooting skills and competed over who could empty magazines fastest, she quietly practiced precision shooting for hours. The other soldiers often whispered behind her back, questioning whether a woman belonged in their elite Special Forces unit. Lieutenant Colonel Henderson, their commanding officer, had his own doubts. During training exercises, he watched Sarah with skeptical eyes. She was methodical, almost too careful with her weapon. While others sprayed bullets in rapid succession, she took measured shots, pausing between each one. Some called it hesitation. Others whispered it was fear. "Martinez moves like she's scared of her own rifle," Sergeant Brooks muttered to his buddy during a break. "Real combat isn't about playing it safe. You need to put lead downrange fast." The criticism stung, but Sarah never responded. She had learned long ago that proving herself through words was pointless. Her father, a Vietnam veteran, had taught her that actions spoke louder than arguments. Every evening after regular training, she would slip away to the remote firing range on base, practicing with different weapons until her hands cramped and her shoulders ached. Her technique was unusual. Where most soldiers learned to fire rapidly and reload quickly, Sarah focused on making every single bullet count. She studied ballistics, wind patterns, and target psychology. Her personal rifle was customized with modifications that most soldiers didn't understand. Extra weight in the stock for stability, a trigger adjusted to her exact finger pressure, and sights calibrated to her specific shooting stance. The other members of Alpha Team tolerated her presence but never fully accepted her. During mission briefings, they would glance at each other when she was assigned to their squad. Captain Torres, the team leader, was professional but distant. He had requested an all-male team for their upcoming deployment, but higher command had insisted on including Martinez. "She's got the highest marksmanship scores in the entire battalion," the colonel had explained. "Her psychological evaluation shows exceptional calm under pressure. We need that precision." Torres remained unconvinced. High scores on a peaceful firing range meant nothing when bullets were flying both ways. Real combat was chaos, confusion, and split-second decisions. He worried that Martinez's cautious approach would get his men killed when they needed aggressive firepower. The team was preparing for deployment to a hostile region where terrorist activity had increased dramatically. Intelligence reports suggested they would face well-armed militants who knew the terrain intimately. Previous missions in the area had resulted in heavy casualties, with enemy forces using ambush tactics and superior numbers to overwhelm smaller military units. During the final training exercise before deployment, Sarah's different approach became more apparent. The scenario involved clearing a building filled with hostile targets while protecting civilian mannequins scattered throughout. Her teammates rushed through rooms, firing rapidly at anything that moved. Sarah moved slowly, deliberately, identifying each target completely before firing single, precise shots. "Too slow, Martinez," Henderson shouted through his megaphone. "In real combat, hesitation kills." But when the exercise ended and scores were calculated, Sarah had eliminated every hostile target without hitting a single civilian. Her teammates, despite their aggressive tactics, had several civilian casualties and missed multiple enemy targets that Sarah had neutralized cleanly. Henderson studied the results with confusion. Her method contradicted everything he had learned about combat effectiveness, yet her results were undeniably superior. Still, he worried about how she would perform under real pressure, when adrenaline flooded her system and enemy bullets were seeking her flesh. The night before deployment, Sarah sat alone in her barracks room, cleaning her rifle one final time. She thought about her father's stories from Vietnam, about soldiers who survived not because they were the fastest or most aggressive, but because they stayed calm and made smart decisions when everyone else panicked. Her teammates were in the common area, playing cards and making jokes about the mission ahead. She could hear them laughing, their voices full of confidence and bravado. Part of her envied their camaraderie, but she knew she had chosen a different path. While they bonded over shared aggression, she had committed herself to a solitary pursuit of perfection. Tomorrow would be her first real combat mission. Everything she had trained for, every hour of practice, every criticism she had endured, would be tested against an enemy that showed no mercy. Her teammates expected her to crack under pressure, to prove that her careful methods were just elaborate ways of hiding cowardice. Sarah checked her gear one last time, ensuring every piece of equipment was exactly where she needed it. Her rifle was loaded with a full magazine, cleaned and calibrated perfectly. She had packed extra ammunition, though something deep in her mind suggested she might not need as much as her teammates expected. As she lay down to sleep, she could still hear the doubtful whispers that had followed her throughout training. Tomorrow, in the heat of real combat, she would finally have the chance to prove whether precision could triumph over firepower, whether discipline could overcome doubt. The helicopter descended through morning mist toward the landing zone, its rotors chopping loudly through the humid air. Sarah felt the familiar weight of her rifle across her lap and checked her equipment one final time. Around her, the 5 other members of Alpha Team made final preparations, their faces painted with camouflage and determination. Captain Torres spoke into his headset, receiving last-minute intelligence updates. The mission seemed straightforward on paper. Infiltrate a suspected terrorist compound, gather intelligence, and eliminate any hostile forces encountered. Satellite images showed a cluster of buildings surrounded by dense forest, perfect terrain for an ambush. "Remember, this isn't a training exercise," Torres announced to his team as the helicopter approached the drop zone. "Intelligence suggests between 20 and 30 hostiles in the area. Stay sharp, stay together, and watch each other's backs." The team landed smoothly and quickly dispersed into the tree line. Sarah moved with fluid silence, her boots finding solid ground while her teammates occasionally snapped twigs or rustled leaves. She had studied the terrain maps extensively, memorizing every ridge, stream, and potential firing position within a 2-mile radius of their target. Sergeant Brooks took point, followed by Torres, then Martinez, with the remaining team members spread in tactical formation. They moved through dense undergrowth for nearly an hour before reaching their observation point overlooking the compound. Through her scope, Sarah studied the target area carefully. The main building was a 2-story concrete structure with multiple windows and what appeared to be rooftop positions. Several smaller outbuildings surrounded it, connected by dirt paths and defensive positions. She counted at least 12 visible hostiles, but her training told her many more were hidden from view. "Looks quiet," whispered Corporal Jensen, the team's communications specialist. Maybe intelligence was wrong about the numbers. Sarah continued her methodical observation, noting details her teammates missed. Guards moved in patterns that suggested coordinated planning. Weapons were positioned at strategic choke points. Small mirrors reflected sunlight from concealed positions, indicating additional snipers. This wasn't a casual gathering of militants. It was a well-prepared defensive position. "Something feels wrong," she murmured to Torres. "Too organized. Too many prepared positions for such a small visible force." Torres studied the compound through his own binoculars but saw nothing unusual. The mission briefing had prepared them for exactly this scenario. "We stick to the plan. Brooks and Jensen circle left. Martinez and Rodriguez take the right flank. Williams and I go straight up the middle. On my signal, we advance simultaneously." Sarah felt unease growing in her stomach, but she knew better than to argue with direct orders. She moved with Rodriguez toward their assigned position, her rifle ready but safety still engaged. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "The most dangerous enemy is the one you don't see coming." As they reached their flanking position, Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. Fresh tire tracks in the mud, too many for the vehicles they had observed. Boot prints and patterns suggesting a much larger force than intelligence had estimated. The compound wasn't just occupied, it was heavily fortified and waiting. Before she could radio her concerns to Torres, the morning silence exploded into chaos. Machine gun fire erupted from multiple positions simultaneously, creating a deadly crossfire that caught Alpha Team completely exposed. The ambush was perfectly coordinated, with overlapping fields of fire that turned their careful approach routes into killing zones. Rodriguez dropped immediately, blood spreading across his camouflage uniform. Sarah dove behind a fallen log as bullets splintered the wood around her. Through her earpiece, she heard panicked voices from her teammates, their confident coordination dissolving into desperate survival. Contact! Multiple hostiles! We're pinned! Down! Torres's voice crackled through static and gunfire. From her position, Sarah could see muzzle flashes from at least 15 different locations. The militants had positioned themselves perfectly, using the terrain and buildings to create interlocking fields of fire. Her teammates were trapped in a carefully prepared kill zone, exactly as she had feared. Brooks's voice came through the radio, tight with pain. "I'm hit, can't move, they're everywhere." Sarah forced herself to remain calm despite the chaos surrounding her. While her teammates fired rapidly in all directions, she began systematically identifying enemy positions. Her training took over, blocking out fear and focusing on the tactical situation with mathematical precision. She counted muzzle flashes, noted reload patterns, and identified the most dangerous threats. Unlike her panicking teammates, she didn't fire a single shot immediately. Instead, she studied the enemy's coordination, looking for weaknesses in their defensive positions. The militants had made one crucial mistake. Their ambush was designed to overwhelm through superior firepower and numbers, but they had positioned themselves assuming their targets would panic and return fire randomly. They hadn't planned for someone who would remain calm enough to exploit their tactical vulnerabilities. Jensen's terrified voice crackled through the radio. "We need immediate backup. At least 50 hostiles. We're going to be overrun." Sarah knew. Backup was hours away and her teammates were running low on ammunition. In their panic, they were burning through magazines at an unsustainable rate, while the enemy seemed to have unlimited supplies. Unless something changed quickly, Alpha Team would be wiped out completely. She keyed her radio with steady hands. "All units, this is Martinez. Stop firing randomly and listen carefully. I have visual on multiple enemy positions. Trust me and follow my directions exactly." Torres's voice came back strained but hopeful. "Martinez, whatever you're planning, make it fast. We can't hold this position much longer." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the familiar calm that had always set her apart from other soldiers. This was the moment she had trained for her entire career. Time to prove that precision could triumph over panic, that discipline could overcome desperation. Sarah pressed herself against the fallen log, her rifle steady despite the chaos erupting around her. While her teammates burned through ammunition in desperate bursts, she had fired exactly 0 rounds. Her magazine remained full, 30 rounds, of carefully selected ammunition that she had loaded personally the night before. "Martinez, where's your covering fire?" Torres shouted through the radio, his voice strained with desperation. Instead of answering immediately, Sarah continued her methodical assessment of the enemy positions. She had identified 17 distinct muzzle flashes, noting their locations, angles of fire, and reload patterns. Her trained eye caught details that panic prevented her teammates from seeing. The enemy machine gunner on the main building's roof was left-handed, exposing his right shoulder during sustained fire. The sniper, in the eastern tree line, had to shift position slightly every few minutes due to an uncomfortable shooting angle. The militants behind the concrete barriers were using older AK-47s that required frequent magazine changes. "All units, cease random firing immediately," Sarah transmitted with calm authority. "You're wasting ammunition and revealing your positions. I need 30 seconds of silence to work." "Are you crazy?" Jensen's panicked voice crackled back. "They'll overrun us." "Trust me," Sarah replied, her voice steady as granite. 30 seconds, then follow my exact instructions." Despite their fear, her teammates reluctantly stopped firing. The sudden quiet allowed Sarah to hear what the noise had hidden before, enemy voices coordinating their assault, footsteps moving through underbrush, and the distinctive sound of multiple weapons being reloaded simultaneously. Sarah raised her rifle, her breathing automatically shifting to the controlled pattern she had practiced thousands of times. The scope's crosshairs found their first target, the machine gunner on the rooftop who had been suppressing Torres and Williams. She calculated distance, wind direction, and target movement in seconds that felt like minutes. Her first shot broke the morning silence with surgical precision. The heavy machine gun that had dominated the battlefield went instantly quiet as its operator slumped forward. 1 round, 1 kill. Maximum tactical impact. Before the enemy could react, Sarah had already shifted to her second target. The sniper, in the eastern tree line, had been picking at Brooks's position, keeping him pinned behind inadequate cover. Her second shot eliminated that threat with the same clinical efficiency. "What the hell?" came through multiple radio channels simultaneously as her teammates realized what was happening. Sarah ignored their amazement and continued her deadly work. Target 3. The militant with the rocket-propelled grenade launcher, who had been maneuvering for a shot at their covered positions. Her third round caught him as he raised the weapon, sending the RPG tumbling harmlessly into the dirt. The enemy force, confident in their superior numbers and prepared positions, suddenly found their tactical advantage evaporating. Their most dangerous weapons were being eliminated by an invisible marksman who seemed to anticipate their every move. A group of 5 militants attempted to rush Torres's position from the western approach, counting on overwhelming firepower to break through. Sarah tracked their movement through her scope, leading the first target by exactly the right amount. Her fourth shot dropped the lead attacker, causing the others to dive for cover in predictable positions. Her fifth shot found the second attacker before he could fully reach cover. The sixth round eliminated the third militant as he tried to retreat to a more defensible position. The remaining 2 abandoned their assault entirely, scrambling back toward the main building in confusion and fear. "This is impossible," Jensen whispered over the radio. "How is she doing this?" Sarah's breathing remained controlled, her heart rate steady despite the life-or-death situation. Years of training had prepared her muscles to remain relaxed even under extreme stress. While adrenaline flooded her teammates' systems, causing shaking hands and rapid breathing, she maintained the physical control necessary for precision shooting. Target 7. A militant attempting to flank Rodriguez's body, probably to recover weapons or gather intelligence. Sarah's bullet found him before he could complete his mission. Target 8. Another sniper who had been engaging Brooks from long range, thinking himself safely concealed behind a distant tree. The enemy's coordinated assault was dissolving into chaos as their key personnel disappeared one by one. What had begun as a confident ambush by superior numbers was becoming a nightmare of invisible death that struck without warning. Sarah keyed her radio while acquiring her 9th target. "Torres, in 15 seconds I need you and Williams to advance exactly 20 meters toward the main building. Brooks, when they move, you shift to the large boulder on your right. Jensen, stay put but be ready to provide covering fire if needed." "Are you sure about this?" Torres asked, his voice mixing doubt with desperate hope. "Completely sure," Sarah replied, her crosshairs settling on a militant who was repositioning to counter her teammates' anticipated movement. "Move on my shot." Her 9th round eliminated the repositioning enemy fighter, and immediately her teammates began their coordinated movement. The remaining militants, already demoralized by the systematic elimination of their key personnel, found themselves facing what appeared to be a supernatural opponent who could predict their every action. Sarah had fired 9 shots and eliminated 9 high-priority targets, each one chosen for maximum tactical impact rather than simple availability. Her magazine still contained 21 rounds, more than enough to complete what she had started. The enemy force that had confidently expected to overwhelm Alpha Team through superior numbers now found themselves outmatched by a single soldier, who fought like she could see the future. Their ambush had become their own trap, and Sarah was methodically turning their prepared positions into a killing ground that favored precision over panic. The battlefield had transformed completely. What began as a coordinated enemy ambush had become a deadly game of chess where Sarah held every advantage. Her systematic elimination of key targets had shattered the militants' confidence and tactical coherence. The remaining enemy fighters were beginning to panic exactly as she had predicted. Sarah shifted her position slightly, moving with practiced silence to a new firing angle. Her teammates had successfully advanced to their new positions, giving her clear lines of sight to enemy fighters who thought themselves safely hidden. Through her scope, she observed the chaos spreading through the militant ranks. Enemy voices carried across the battlefield, shouting in confusion and fear. They had expected to face ordinary soldiers who would panic under pressure and waste ammunition in desperate spray and pray tactics. Instead, they found themselves hunted by someone who seemed to possess supernatural abilities. Her 10th target appeared as a militant attempted to coordinate a retreat from the main building. Sarah recognized him as a leader figure based on his position and the way others looked to him for direction. Her bullet found him precisely as he gestured toward an escape route, removing the enemy's tactical coordination permanently. "Jesus Christ, Martinez," Brooks whispered through the radio, his voice filled with awe. "They're falling apart." Sarah remained focused on the tactical situation, her mind calculating distances and trajectories with mechanical precision. Her 11th shot eliminated a sniper who had been trying to relocate to a position where he could threaten her teammates' new positions. The 12th round found a militant who was attempting to reach a heavy machine gun that could have changed the battle's dynamic. The enemy force was beginning to break. Scattered voices called for retreat in multiple languages, their original confidence completely shattered. What had started as perhaps 50 militants was now reduced to fewer than 20, and those remaining were more concerned with escape than continued fighting. But Sarah wasn't finished. Her training had taught her that a retreating enemy could regroup and attack again later. Professional soldiers eliminated threats completely, ensuring they couldn't return to endanger future missions or other friendly forces. 3 militants attempted to provide covering fire while their comrades escaped toward a hidden vehicle position. Sarah had noted earlier. Her 13th, 14th, and 15th shots eliminated all 3 in rapid succession, each bullet finding its target before they could effectively coordinate their suppressive fire. "I've never seen anything like this," Jensen reported, his voice mixing amazement with relief. "She's not missing, not even once." Sarah's breathing remained controlled as she tracked her 16th target, a militant attempting to recover a fallen comrade's weapon. Her shot prevented him from adding to the enemy's firepower, while simultaneously discouraging others from similar attempts. The psychological impact was as important as the tactical one. Each precise elimination sent a clear message to the surviving enemy fighters. Nowhere was safe, no position was secure, and their invisible hunter never missed her intended target. Torres keyed his radio, his voice carrying new respect. "Martinez, can you see the eastern escape route? Multiple contacts moving through the trees." "I see them," Sarah replied calmly, her scope already tracking the retreating fighters. 17 through 21 coming up. Her 17th shot dropped the lead escaping militant. The 18th found the second fighter before he could reach adequate cover. The 19th round eliminated a third enemy who had stopped to return fire, thinking himself beyond accurate rifle range. Target 20 tried to use a tree for protection, but Sarah's bullet found the gap between trunk and body with mathematical precision. Target 21 attempted to crawl away through underbrush, but her scope's magnification made concealment impossible. "That's 21 confirmed kills," she reported matter-of-factly, as if discussing training exercise results rather than life-and-death combat. The remaining enemy fighters were in full retreat now, their organized ambush having become a complete disaster. But Sarah's tactical analysis indicated the threat wasn't completely neutralized. Several militants remained in positions where they could still endanger her teammates or interfere with mission completion. Her 22nd shot eliminated a sniper who had remained hidden in a rooftop position, waiting for Alpha Team to expose themselves during what they might think was a victory. The 23rd round found a militant who was attempting to destroy intelligence materials that the team needed to recover. "Movement on the south wall," Williams reported. "Can't get a clear shot from here." "I have it," Sarah responded, her crosshairs settling on her 24th target. The militant was trying to escape while carrying what appeared to be important documents or electronic equipment. Her bullet stopped his escape permanently, while preserving the intelligence materials intact. Sarah's magazine now contained only 6 rounds, but her systematic elimination of enemy personnel had reduced the threat to manageable levels. The surviving militants were scattered, demoralized, and more focused on escape than continued resistance. Through her scope, she identified the final high-priority targets: a communications specialist trying to alert other enemy cells, a weapons expert attempting to destroy evidence, and several fighters still in positions where they could threaten her teammates. Her 25th shot silenced the communications specialist before he could complete his transmission. The 26th round prevented the weapons expert from destroying crucial evidence. The 27th and 28th shots eliminated the final two militants who posed direct threats to Alpha Team. "Area appears secure," Torres announced, cautiously, still hardly believing what he had witnessed. But Sarah's professional instincts told her the mission wasn't complete. Her scope revealed two final targets: enemy fighters who had remained hidden throughout the engagement, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Her training demanded that every threat be neutralized before mission completion. Sarah's scope revealed the final two threats hidden in positions her teammates couldn't see. These weren't ordinary militants attempting to escape. They were patient professionals who had remained concealed throughout the entire engagement, waiting for Alpha Team to believe the fight was over before striking with devastating effect. The first hidden enemy was positioned in an underground bunker entrance, nearly invisible from ground level but clearly visible from Sarah's elevated angle. He held a rocket-propelled grenade launcher aimed directly at the position where Torres and Williams were beginning to advance. One trigger pull would eliminate half of Alpha Team. The second threat was even more dangerous. A sniper hidden in a camouflaged position nearly 400 meters away, far beyond the effective range of her teammates' weapons. His rifle was trained on the area where Brooks was attempting to provide medical aid to Rodriguez, who was still breathing but badly wounded. Sarah calculated the shots with mathematical precision. Both targets were aware of each other's positions and would coordinate their attack the moment Alpha Team exposed themselves by advancing toward the compound. She had perhaps seconds before they initiated their final ambush. Her 29th shot struck the RPG operator precisely as he prepared to fire, the rocket launcher falling silent before it could devastate her teammates. The sound of her rifle immediately alerted the distant sniper to her position, but Sarah had already shifted her aim to compensate for the increased range and wind conditions. The enemy sniper was skilled and experienced, recognizing immediately that he faced a marksman of exceptional ability. He attempted to relocate to a better position while maintaining his sight picture on Brooks, but Sarah's scope tracked his movement with relentless precision. Her 30th and final shot traveled nearly 400 meters through shifting air currents, finding its target just as the enemy sniper prepared to eliminate Brooks. The bullet struck with perfect accuracy, ending the final threat to Alpha Team's survival. Sarah lowered her rifle, her magazine completely empty after 30 rounds fired with absolute precision. Around her, the battlefield had fallen silent, except for the moaning of wind through damaged trees and the distant sound of retreating vehicles, carrying any militants who had survived her methodical elimination. "All clear," she reported calmly, her voice carrying the same steady tone she had maintained throughout the entire engagement. Torres emerged from his position, his expression mixing disbelief with profound respect. "Martinez, how many did you count?" 50 confirmed eliminations," Sarah replied matter-of-factly while beginning to reload her rifle. "No wounded left behind to report our tactics or positions. Threat completely neutralized." Jensen approached cautiously, his communications equipment ready to report mission success to headquarters. 50 kills with 30 rounds? That's impossible." 48 kills, Sarah corrected with characteristic precision. 2 shots were used to disable equipment rather than eliminate personnel. One to destroy a radio transmitter, another to damage a vehicle that could have been used for escape. Brooks limped over from Rodriguez's position, field bandages visible on his leg wound. "Rodriguez is stable. We can evacuate him safely now." He stared at Sarah with new understanding. "You weren't hesitating during training. You were calculating." Williams examined several of the eliminated enemy positions, shaking his head in amazement. Every single shot was a headshot or center mass hit. No wounded, no ammunition wasted, no missed targets. Sarah methodically checked her equipment and prepared for extraction, her demeanor unchanged despite having single-handedly eliminated an entire enemy force. To her, the engagement had been a practical application of skills she had spent years developing through disciplined practice and study. Torres coordinated the intelligence-gathering mission while his team secured the compound. Documents, computer, equipment, and communication devices were collected quickly and efficiently. The intelligence value would be enormous, partly because Sarah's precise shooting had prevented the enemy from destroying sensitive materials. "How did you know exactly where every enemy position was located?" Torres asked as they prepared for helicopter extraction. "I watched their muzzle flashes, studied their reload patterns, and tracked their movement patterns," Sarah explained simply. "Most people see chaos during firefights. I see mathematics and predictable human behavior." The extraction helicopter arrived precisely on schedule, its crew amazed to find Alpha Team not only alive, but completely successful in their mission objectives. The pilot had expected to perform a dangerous combat rescue. Instead, he found a routine pickup of a victorious team. During the flight back to base, Sarah sat quietly while her teammates discussed the engagement with excited voices. They replayed every moment, analyzing her shots and marveling at the tactical precision that had saved their lives. "I've been in combat for 12 years, Torres confided to her over the helicopter's noise. "I've never seen anything approaching what you did today. You didn't just save our mission, you probably saved all our lives." Sarah nodded acknowledgement but didn't elaborate. In her mind, she had simply applied her training effectively under combat conditions. The months of doubt, criticism, and skepticism from her colleagues seemed distant now, replaced by the satisfaction of professional competence validated under the ultimate test. Brooks leaned forward from his seat, his wounded leg stretched out for comfort. "When we get back, I'm buying the first round. Hell, I'm buying all the rounds. And I'm apologizing for every stupid comment I ever made about your shooting style," Jensen added with genuine embarrassment. "I thought you were being overly cautious. I didn't realize you were being perfectly prepared." Sarah smiled slightly, the first emotional expression she had shown since the mission began. Her father's lessons about actions speaking louder than words had proven absolutely correct. No amount of argument could have convinced her teammates of her capabilities, but 30 rounds fired with perfect precision had demonstrated everything they needed to know. The helicopter touched down at the forward operating base as the sun reached its highest point. Word of Alpha Team's miraculous survival had already spread through unofficial channels, creating an unusual gathering of personnel waiting near the landing pad. Soldiers, officers, and support staff had assembled to witness the return of a team that everyone expected to require immediate medical evacuation. Instead, they watched 5 combat-effective soldiers exit the aircraft, supporting only Rodriguez, whose wounds were serious but stable. The intelligence materials recovered from the enemy compound filled 2 large duffel bags representing one of the most successful intelligence-gathering operations in recent memory. Lieutenant Colonel Henderson was among those waiting, his expression revealing the internal conflict between disbelief and undeniable evidence. The radio reports he had received during the mission seemed impossible. A single soldier eliminating an entire enemy force without missing a single shot or requiring a magazine reload. "Debrief in 20 minutes, Henderson announced as the team dispersed toward the medical facility and equipment checkout. "I want detailed after-action reports from everyone." Sarah walked quietly toward the armory to return her weapon, unaware of the whispered conversations following her path. Other soldiers stared openly, trying to reconcile the calm, methodical woman they had dismissed during training with the legendary markswoman who had just accomplished the impossible. In the debrief room, Henderson faced Alpha Team with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. "I want to understand exactly what happened out there. According to preliminary reports, Martinez eliminated 50 enemy combatants with 30 rounds of ammunition. That kind of performance is statistically impossible." Torres stood to address his commanding officer. "Sir, I witnessed every engagement personally. Martinez's shooting was the most precise combat marksmanship I've ever observed. Without her intervention, Alpha Team would have been completely wiped out within the first 5 minutes of contact." "The enemy had prepared a perfect ambush," Brooks added, his bandaged leg stretched in front of his chair. "Superior numbers, interlocking fields of fire, elevated positions. We were caught completely exposed. Martinez turned their advantages against them through pure shooting skill." Henderson reviewed the intelligence materials spread across the conference table. Documents, computer drives, and communication equipment that would provide crucial information about enemy operations. Throughout the region, how was this material recovered intact? Martinez's precision shooting prevented the enemy from destroying sensitive materials, Jensen explained. She eliminated specific targets who were attempting to destroy evidence while leaving the intelligence materials undamaged. Williams produced photographs taken during the compound search. Every enemy position shows evidence of single, precise shots. No area damage, no collateral destruction. It was surgical. Henderson studied the photographs, his military experience, unable to rationalize what the evidence clearly demonstrated. Martinez, explain your tactical approach during the engagement. Sarah remained seated, her voice calm and professional. I observed enemy positions during the initial ambush, identified their coordination patterns, and eliminated high-priority targets in order of tactical importance. The enemy force was large but poorly disciplined once their key personnel were neutralized. You fired 30 rounds and achieved 50 eliminations? 48 eliminations, Sarah corrected. 2 rounds were used to disable equipment that could have compromised mission success. Every shot served a specific tactical purpose. Henderson leaned back in his chair, processing information that challenged everything he understood about combat. Effectiveness. How did you maintain accuracy under such extreme pressure? Pressure is controlled through proper breathing techniques and systematic target prioritization, Sarah explained. Panic reduces accuracy. Methodical approach maintains precision even under adverse conditions, Torres interjected with obvious respect. Sir, Martinez saved our entire team while simultaneously completing the intelligence gathering mission. Her performance exceeded every combat standard I've ever witnessed. Henderson nodded slowly, his previous doubts about Sarah's capabilities completely reversed. The intelligence value of this operation cannot be overstated. Enemy plans, communication networks, and operational procedures that would have required months of investigation. Over the following days, news of Sarah's extraordinary performance spread throughout the military community. Combat veterans who had initially questioned her unconventional approach now sought her advice on precision shooting techniques. Training instructors modified their curricula to incorporate her methods of systematic target analysis and controlled engagement. The official after-action reports, classified at the highest levels, became required reading for special operations personnel. Sarah's tactical approach was studied, analyzed, and incorporated into advanced combat training programs. Military colleges examined her engagement as a textbook example of how individual skill could overcome overwhelming odds through disciplined application of proven techniques. Sarah returned to her routine of evening practice sessions at the remote firing range, but now she was no longer alone. Young soldiers requested permission to observe her training methods, hoping to understand the principles behind her remarkable performance. She accepted their interest with quiet dignity, sharing knowledge freely while maintaining her characteristic humility. Torres recommended her for the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration for valor in combat. Henderson endorsed the recommendation enthusiastically, noting that her actions had not only saved American lives, but had also provided intelligence that would prevent future terrorist attacks. Months later, Sarah stood at attention in a ceremony, attended by senior military officials and government dignitaries. As the medal was placed around her neck, she thought about her father's lessons and the years of patient practice that had prepared her for 30 rounds that changed everything. Doubts were gone now, replaced by respect earned through demonstrated competence under the ultimate test. She had proven that precision could triumph over panic, that discipline could overcome desperation, and that careful preparation could achieve results that seemed impossible to those who had never committed themselves to true excellence. In her acceptance speech, she spoke simply. Excellence is achieved through preparation, maintained through discipline, and demonstrated when it matters most. Every soldier has the capacity for extraordinary performance when they commit themselves to systematic improvement, rather than impressive displays. The audience understood that they had witnessed not just exceptional marksmanship, but the triumph of professional dedication over doubt, of substance over appearance and of quiet competence over loud confidence. Sarah Martinez had become a legend not through boasting or self-promotion, but through 30 rounds fired with perfect precision, when her team's survival depended on nothing less than perfection.